Good evening, everybody. Welcome. My name is Nola Hamway, and I'm the Changing Minds Program Coordinator here at Community Access. We are so excited to have you all here for our Changing Minds Young Filmmaker Festival. We have over 800 people in our virtual audience tonight, and we so appreciate you spending this evening with us. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Changing Minds. In 2005, Community Access first launched its New York City Mental Health Film Festival, which is now the oldest and largest festival of its kind in North America. Shortly thereafter, classroom teachers, guidance counselors, and principals began reaching out, asking to bring the films to their classrooms as a way to introduce their students to conversations about mental health. But we didn't just want young people to participate in these conversations. We wanted them to lead them, because at Community Access, we firmly believe that people are experts in their own lives. So in 2016, we launched the Changing Minds Young Filmmaker Competition, and in 2019, the Changing Minds Young Filmmaker Festival, a festival by young people, for young people, and centering their stories. Since then, we've received over 5,000 film submissions from young filmmakers from New York City, across the country, and around the world, ages 15 to 25 years old. Their short films cover a wide range of topics, including struggles with depression, anxiety, disordered eating, and harmful media messages. They are highly personal and crafted by passionate storytellers. As an 18-year-old myself, I am proud to provide this platform for my peers. I know all too well the struggles of this past year, living through a global pandemic and the effect that it's had on teens and young adults. Fortunately, this has opened the door for a new focus on youth mental health, which is very much needed. We have 8 phenomenal films to show you all tonight. We'll be screening 4 of the films and holding a Q&A with the filmmakers, followed by another 4 films and another Q&A session. We're so excited to welcome back our friend Shadille Estepan from Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation to moderate those Q&A sessions. We are huge fans of Born This Way and so grateful for Shadille's work. I also want to give a shout out to some special folks joining us tonight. Welcome to our friends from The Door, St. Nick's Alliance, the NYC Gay and Lesbian Center, Trinity Wall Street, and the Ali Forney Center. Thank you all so much for joining us. It took a lot of people to make this evening possible. I'd like to thank the Lauriam Tisch Illumination Fund and the Azora Foundation for their generous support of Changing Minds. And thank you, last but certainly not least, to the talented filmmakers who had the courage to share their art and stories with us all. As you enjoy their films, we encourage you to share your reactions in the chat box. You can also post questions for the Q&A session. Together, we can create a supportive and compassionate conversation this evening. I'd now like to welcome back last year's winner, Denise Chan, to say a few words before the screening begins. Thank you all.
Thank you, Nola, and hi, everybody. My name is Denise Chan. I'm a filmmaker and animator in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was very honored that my short film, Kairu, was selected as the Changing Minds winner in 2019. I made Kairu for my senior thesis project in school. It tells the story of a young photographer named Mitsuko who struggles with anxiety and insecurity. Through animation, I explore her feelings of self-doubt, which I think a lot of young artists experience when they're still learning to believe in themselves and their work. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. And that is the point of this film festival, to share our stories and feel less alone. I am so happy to congratulate this year's 2021 Changing Minds winner, Kat Dolan of North Carolina. Her film, Nobody But Myself, features Kat's original poetry, some beautiful cinematography, and her moving performance. It will be the 8th and final film to screen this evening, so I encourage you to stay tuned until the end of tonight's program. And now, please enjoy this year's films.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله.
Ya Allah, allow us to help our loved ones in any way possible. Ya Allah, there's so many people going through struggles that we don't even know, so allow us to be aware of this. Allow us to have empathy for those who are in need and to truly understand the situation and to help us put ourselves in their shoes and to help us treat them the way we would want to be treated.
I didn't believe I had depression until last year. I didn't fit that mold of a depressed person, a person who doesn't get out of bed, a person who doesn't enjoy things as much as they used to. You know, like when I die, how does it feel to die? I have a lot of intrusive thoughts. It can be really, really debilitating at times. They scare me a lot. I feel a lot of shame just even thinking about telling someone my thoughts because they're just so obscene. My mind will start racing. Like I'll start thinking about the craziest things I could do with a scissor or with a knife. It's a lot to carry.
Getting mad. Everyone's like, I was gonna put that down. So you only play like,
I know, but trust me, if it's in my room, that's that.
out of time.
I am engaged. I will be getting married in July. I've been with this person for a while. We've planned everything, booked the venue. Now we're just waiting.
This is for you. Did you guys get these? Oh my god! I do! Very unconventional place to do it, but I would love to be your bridesmaid. This is the best place to do it.
When I get married, I expect to be, you know, like working, making money, and like I'm a very career-oriented person. I like being outside, I like socializing, I like having like me time. I'm very, very, very independent, and he understands that. I don't really go to him for support because I don't really go to like non-professionals like at all. Like I said, like I don't go to my friends either, like unless it's like I have like no other resources. As a Muslim, we should not fear death. We should only fear Allah. And that's what kind of messes me up because I'm scared. Like, I know I'm Muslim, I know I believe in an afterlife, but it's like, I can't imagine. I can't even like process it. I hope everything's gonna feel different because I can't, right now I'm stuck in like a gut. We have decided to not proceed with my marriage. Honestly, it really deteriorated my mental health. Like, I deteriorated my own sanity for this person. I figured he's like the #1 reason I went to therapy. It's because of him, and just the fact that I don't have control over my own life. But it's okay.
Who's talking?
I don't think your struggle with mental health just goes away. But I do think that as long as you have a support system, you can decrease the impact of it. And being Muslim helps me feel like I'm not alone at the end of the day. God is someone who's seeing your struggles all the time, who knows everything about you because he created you. Like, that is what I believe. And having gone to therapy helped me really understand that I can't do it myself. Like, I need help. I've learned to realize that it's perfectly fine to seek help and realize that you're not alone.
I know a place that's always moving, where there's something in the air that makes sleep useless. If the world was a movie, you would see so many people walk by and never stop to notice, as if they are just extras. But what if I told you that they are the movie? We are the movie. If the world was a stop-motion film, each picture would be a moment frozen in time, yet still moving forward. Like bad internet service, claustrophobia ensues as we quarantine ourselves in our own fear. Thursday, March 12th, 2020, was the first day that I felt trapped in my own hand-washing, turning the happy birthday song into a timer, dehydrating my sense of hope and my skin all at the same time. While some of us are basking in our privilege of stockpiling things, not out of need, but our own fear, if the world was a movie, it would expose how those who bought wipes to resell and made $100,000 off of innocently scared people, and how those who bought enough food to feed an entire village still look down on those fleeing war and famine with no Walmart to turn to. And it would tell them that any phobia is a toxin in itself. Or maybe it's a silent film. A world where you see color but everything feels black and white. With 5 million children out of school right now, you'd think it would be louder. Where I realized that by the time this poem is finished, all of my stats will be outdated. No are so many voices screaming at you from all directions, saying everything and nothing that you want to hear, to the point where your native tongue sounds like a foreign language, to the point where you drown out this flood until it turns into white noise. Then, nothing at all. What if the film was a black screen? All the lights, cameras, and actions are out. Sun extinguished and stars left to wander. Smothered by a red sea of businesses dropping like flies, where we're all left in the dark. But this gray area sets a backdrop for color, a home for sun-spilled faces. If the world was a movie, I'd kaleidoscope the technicolor stories that we hold behind our eyes, how we build bridges, write books, and try not to hold grudges. The heart of a cosmopolitan among the cosmos, we are nothing short of stars. Each mind, a new kit of lenses, take different angles on the same avenues. The key is our delicate balance of thinking independently together. Threads of streets woven into grand tapestries. If the world was a film, it would have no beginning, middle, or end. It would just play on. Imagine all of this translated by the cry of time moving through us. But COVID-19 would only last for one frame. If I made a movie about the world, I would tell you not to socially distance ourselves from each other's humanity. A documentary of diversity where divided nations form a unifying pulse, an involuntary muscle with conscious intent of not canceling hope, not canceling love, not canceling life, employing the trillions of cells in our bodies to keep moving. See, cinema can be the most beautiful fraud in the entire world. But what if I told you that this is real? What if I made a movie about the world, my beloved home, where the extras avoiding cracks in the sidewalks become the stars, beacons of light in falls of Broadway darkness, where we are the movie.
What an incredible collection of films. Congratulations to all of the filmmakers and their teams for sharing their visions with us and the world. My name is Shadille Estepan. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the Communications and Outreach Manager at Born This Way Foundation. We're committed to supporting the mental health of young people and working with them to build a kinder and braver world. Our work celebrates the power of storytelling and its ability to transform lives, similar to community access. We build awareness, inspire acts of kindness, and invoke conversations about mental health. Young people are facing very real challenges exacerbated by the pandemic and other world issues. We need to validate their feelings and meet them with kind, compassionate messages, and of course, helpful resources. Today, we have the honor of being in conversation with the storytellers and advocates who dared to create films that invite us to lean into these conversations and all of its complexities. I'd like to start by creating a space for us to check in with each other. So in lieu of formal introductions, I want to invite each of you, our panelists, and our community, yes, that includes all of you watching from home, to share a little bit about who you are in this moment. And we'll start with Alicia.
Hi, my name's Alicia. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Currently I'm feeling relaxed, happy, and excited. And Hannah?
Hi everyone, my name is Hannah. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And right now in this moment, I feel calm and very hopeful for the future. And now on to Naila.
Hi everyone, my name is Naila, and right now my pronouns are she, her, hers, and right now I'm feeling excited, nervous, and also very honored to be here.
Oh, the feeling is mutual. Thank you all so much for sharing. And I hope that we are also hearing from everyone in our comment section. We'd love to know how you're doing as well. And I'd love to start with Hannah. Hannah, in your film, If the World Was a Movie, you started with depicting a world where you see color, but everything feels black and white. And towards the end, you evoke a sense of hope by reminding us not to cancel hope, love, and definitely not canceling life. What I'm so first and foremost, I'm incredibly moved by your choice of words. Every single shot was absolutely perfect. And I'd love to know what your intention was with the last line, not to cancel hope, love, and not canceling life.
Thank you so much for that. I definitely feel that with my film, and specifically that line. I feel that film is the act of painting with words and also images. So I felt that because of the mundane routines that we're going through and the depreciation of hope, or the depletion of hope, that people are experiencing, I think it definitely felt very draining. So draining all of the color and joy out of our lives and what we were so accustomed to with casually meeting people and getting to do more exciting things in person. But then I wanted to sort of bring it back onto a positive note, because I feel that a lot of people felt stuck with the pandemic and stuck in their situations and stuck in the same place, and that they couldn't move forward. But with that line, I wanted to instill this reminder in everyone's ideals that we can overcome this together, and we will. And we will restore the color and all of the nuances back into our lives as we continue to push forward.
Well, thank you so much, Hannah, for inviting us to dive into that color. And I'm so excited, along with you, for the future and for the opportunity to connect again in person with those that we love, and to be able to watch films in theaters again. How lovely would that be? I am so excited for that. And
Me
Naila, I'd
too.
love to, yes. And Naila, I'd love to dive into your film. I really would love for you to share the name. I immediately looked it up. I looked up its meaning and learned that it means the earthly scent produced when rain falls on dry soil. And I knew that, like Hannah's depth, there was something more to this title. And I'd love for you to share what inspired you to choose this name, and of course, tell this story.
Yeah, so actually the title was very important to me because I found this word a while back when I was looking through a list of like words that you've never heard before. And I really fell in love with it because I love the rain and I love the smell of rain. And I thought it was very relevant to this because when you're depressed or anxious or going through a hard time, you're obviously shedding tears and you're obviously going through emotional turmoil or some kind of, you're like sweating or whatnot. And I feel like petrichor describes that, there's like a good scent that comes after your struggle. Like it's not always going to be a struggle. There's not always going to be rain. And that somehow, someday you're going to smell something that smells something better than what you're going through right now.
Wow. Yes, I resonate with like that. That resonated with me so much. I grew up in South Florida, so I'm very familiar with rain. And I feel you. The smell of rain and just those things that keep us tethered to this world and remind us that there's so much more beyond the challenges that we're facing at the moment. Just thank you so much. That was wonderful to hear from you, and I hope that everyone who's listening today also has a chance to rewatch that film. I watched all of your films like 3 or 4 times, and I'm so excited to connect with Alicia. Your film, Relative Living, focuses on the lack of connections and other themes, of course. And I'd love to hear from you what your inspiration for your film was, and also how can we help build more connections in this ever increasing digital world?
Um, so my inspiration for this film is sort of like the time between like childhood as like and adolescence, and like sort of like how I feel like I definitely became more disconnected with the world as I like started using social media more, and like just like the use of the internet. And I feel like sometimes it's just really nice to like take a step back and like look at your like where you are and like how your connections with people are. And I'm not really sure how exactly like we can like build connections better right now, because like I don't really have much insight into that. But I feel like it's sometimes we should just like maybe like unplug, and I feel like that's like something that I definitely explored throughout like my film Relative Living.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll be honest, I have trouble disconnecting. I think I've had my phone on me all day. I've got it right here. I've got a screen in front of me, and there are multiple screens on in the home that I'm in. We're constantly connected, and it's so important in the way that you depicted in your film to take a moment to reflect on that connection and how we're so connected to this technological world. And while we can find beautiful communities and support and resources, it's also important to take a step back and take a breather and invite ourselves to sort of reflect on that connection and try to form more healthy connections depending on each person's individual challenge. But thank you so much for that, and I just look forward to a world where we can continue connecting. I think I will circle back to the initial thought of wanting to be in a theater so badly. And so thank you all so much for truly for all that you do and all that you are in this world. And before we jump to audience Q&A, I want to share that Born This Way Foundation teamed up with our friends at Find Your Anchor to create an initiative called Please Stay. And essentially, it's an interactive and easily accessible mental health resource. And on the site, you can find links to mental health resources, self-care tips, reminders for how special you are, ideas for anchors, and most importantly, a reminder to you and those that you love that you're here to stay and that you matter. And I'd love to hear from each of you what your anchors are. And we can start with Alicia.
So currently, I would definitely say my anchors have been my friends, and my family, as well as, I've also art, I guess. I really started getting into like sketching, after, I've had like a lot of time to myself. So those two things are definitely, what's anchoring me right now.
And Hannah?
I would have to say that my anchors, one, hands down, first I'd have to say definitely my mom. She's my best friend and she's been my rock since day one. My friends as well, they've been super supportive, especially like with quarantine birthdays and being able to socially distance, have socially distant celebrations for each other's birthdays and just being there. And also, I'm a spoken word artist, so just poetry, getting down what I first think to be unexplainable, but then when I actually start writing, things just start making sense. And Naila?
So my anchor is definitely my family and my faith. Whenever I'm feeling down, I just think back to times that I've relied on my family and they've been there, and times that I've looked into my faith and into, you know, my religion and seen like the light in it. So it definitely got me through this year, and I'm really looking forward to getting me through the rest of my life.
Thank you so much for sharing your anchors. I'll do the same. My anchors right now are my younger sister. She not only keeps me incredibly relevant, but also has my back in every way, shape, or form. And of course, my loved ones. They're my anchors as well. And I also, speaking of birthdays, I recently had a birthday, and I literally, my anchor is cake. Right now, I'm just eating cake as I watch these films, and feel so blessed to be in the presence of each of you and everyone who is joining us for this conversation. And speaking of those who are joining us, I'd love to dive into some questions from the audience. I think there's like a voice that's supposed to share some of these with me somehow. Here's a question for Alicia. What inspired you to, I'm so sorry, can you repeat that one more time? What inspired your choice to animate using cardboard and paper?
So something I'm definitely into is sort of a more like sustainable living, and I really wanted to try since I typically did like claymation, I wanted to try this concept out with paper, and I felt like with paper and cardboard, it's something like I had like quite a lot of like just lying around. So being able to like use that to create a whole like set and like film is like was a really new and like interesting experience.
It was also an incredible experience to watch. I every second of like I'm actually doing this, and just incredibly impressed. Thank you so much. Naila, what inspired you to choose this topic? And what
Sorry.
were the challenges? What inspired you to choose this topic, and what were some of the challenges that you faced addressing such a personal, focusing on a subject so personal? Excuse me.
No worries. I chose this topic because I know a lot of people in my life who struggle with depression, and even like anxiety is more like prevalent. And I had actually chose this topic and this subject specifically because of Jania. She had spoken to me before previously, and she shared her feelings with me, and I felt like her story was very powerful, and I asked her if she would be willing to be part of this film, and she was. So I honestly give all my thanks to her, because without her like bravery, there would be no story to tell. And it was very difficult following a subject and following someone with a topic this raw, because you know it's hard to always like pick up the phone and be like, hi, you know, come and take a video of me while I'm dealing with this. And it actually you know, I had to be creative with how to show these emotions without always showing her in the scene, which was a lot of the reason why I chose rain in some shots. And you know, it's very difficult to have someone follow you around at the camera, especially if you have anxiety and especially if you're dealing with depression. And yeah, so I did struggle a lot with following this character, but she was very, very, very vulnerable with me, and yeah, and I had a lot of help with my fellow classmates in City College, and I had like my friend Carla. She was helping me edit, and without her, I don't even know if I would have been able to get the film done, because there were so many shots that I needed that were not there because of the subject at hand, and it was really hard to capture those moments. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Naila. I think it's so important to really talk about that, the emotions behind like, filmmaking, and how important it is to approach stories with kindness and care and vulnerability. And a lot of what you said really resonated with me. And Born This Way Foundation, we work with a lot of youth storytellers for our platform called Channel Kindness. And it takes an additional level of empathy truly to tell someone else's story, and also to share your own. So incredibly brave. So thank you so much. And to everyone who worked on all of your films, thank you. And we have one last question for everyone, which I'm going to ask for the voice in my head to please repeat one more time. All right. Whoa, that's a tough one. So I'm going to hand it off to Alicia. What was your biggest fear in producing your film?
Oh, that's a great question. I definitely feel like one of my biggest fears with this film was being able to like tell the general like concept of like disconnect, and I felt like I wasn't really sure if it would like sort of be portrayed very well like through film, but I feel like it worked out pretty well. And another fear of mine when I was doing this film was like, it was sort of like, should I, since most of my film is in black and white, I was, there's like there's no dialogue, so that was definitely a risk I was taking with that. Hannah?
I would have to say that my biggest fear when creating the film, If the World Was a Movie, was just feeling that I was able to do the story justice and to do the collective experience justice with this entire pandemic. I know that everyone's situation is different, they're not one and the same, and I really wanted to make sure that even though I was limited to where exactly I could film, like I'm from Toronto in Canada, so even though the city is big, it's not going to be the same for everyone in other cities and other countries, continents, etc. So I actually recycled some of my old travel videos that I took on like separate vacations and school trips, and I compiled all of that together, sort of like a time capsule to just really get as best of a collective experience or like a big picture instead of just focusing the lens on a concentrated area. I really wanted to tell the story of now with everyone involved. And Naila?
I'm trying to think about the answer to this question, because there were so many things that, first of all, it was my thesis, so I was worried about not getting it in time, getting it done in time. And the other thing was I was really worried about how I would distribute this film, because obviously I wanted to be careful with my subject and how she felt about her life being on blast everywhere. And I was very, very worried, especially like when film festivals started going like, hi, can we please show your film here? And I was like, yeah, sure. But then I had to go and tell her like, hi, the film is going to be really out there everywhere. And I was worried about her response, because it was really, I'm not sure, like, while I was making it, I was expecting it to get this much of a response. So when I told her, she was like, yeah, of course, like this is an important topic, and I want people to be aware of it. The other thing was, I think while we're filmmaking, I was worried about not getting enough shots and enough scenes to fill and show all her emotions and really depict like what she was going through, and giving the story justice. And I mean, there were so many challenges that go through making a film, but those are the two most prevalent ones that I had to navigate through.
And you all did it with so much grace and bravery and kindness to yourselves in the process. That's amazing. I am incredibly impressed and like proud just to be in your presence and to talk about your films in this way. And I look forward for millions of people to continue to check them out and to feel inspired by your stories. And now we'll dive into the next set of films in our festival. So grab your popcorn, or in my case, some cake, as we watch the next films.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to anybody who just joined us. Again, my name is Nola Hamley, and I'm the Changing Minds Program Coordinator. I just want to reiterate a few points for anybody just joining us, a little bit about our history here. So, with the goal of sharing stories and starting conversations about mental health and stigma, Community Access first launched its New York City Mental Health Film Festival in 2005, which sparked an interest among teachers, guidance counselors, and principals to introduce these same stories and conversations to their students. From here came the Changing Minds Young Filmmaker competition, which soon transitioned to a festival, the one you're all attending tonight. As you continue to watch the outstanding films from these young and passionate filmmakers, please feel free to share your thoughts and ask any questions for the next Q&A session in the chat box. Tonight, you'll be seeing 4 more films and then another Q&A session with those filmmakers and Shadille Estepan from Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation. Thank you all again so much for being here and sharing this special night with us, and a huge thank you to our founders, the Lori M. Tisch Illumination Fund, and the Zora Foundation. This would not be possible without them. Thank you all so much, and enjoy!
Is this gonna last forever? I don't have the energy for people, friends. I don't have energy at all. I fell out of love with everything, and I convinced myself that everyone fell out of love with me. I'm a disappointment. I don't belong. I'm unwanted and not needed. Nobody understands me. I don't even understand myself. I feel alone, even when I'm surrounded by people. The emptiness overshadows everything. Is this what life is supposed to feel like? Time is collapsing in on itself. Everything blends together to create one suffocating loop. It's endless, overwhelming. I can't breathe. Does anyone even know what I'm going through? Do they even care? Sometimes it's hard to find the right words. And when I do, they're hard to say. If you look deep in my eyes, you would have noticed the pain I'm trying to hide. Where were you when I needed you the most? I just want everything to stop. The hurting, the despair, the panic, the depression. I want everything to stop. Make it stop. I need it to stop. I'm not worth anyone's worry. My mind is a mess. I can't control it. I can't let it show. Sometimes my heart beats so fast I can't even feel it beating at all. I feel like I'm losing myself. And then all of a sudden, I feel nothing. To be honest, it's hard to be vulnerable when you're thought of as happy. Some days I wake up praying for the day to be over. Is life even worth living in these moments? The questions are endless. The answers are non-existent. And just when my mind spiral attempts to throw me off the edge, I force myself to be still. Close my eyes. Breathe in. Breathe out. Be still. For so long, I thought that these burdens were my responsibility to carry. Your burden, fatigue, loneliness, anxiety, depression, it's not your weight to carry. My feelings tell me that existing is overwhelming, but my thoughts do not own me, and I do not owe them. I am done being chained to the things that depression wants me to believe. Feelings fade, but the truth does not. My feelings in darkness tell me that there is no way out, but the light shows me differently. Days will be brighter, days will be darker. Healing is a process, and processes take time. Now these are the truths that I hold on to. Exist in the realm of control that you were meant to. Stop attempting to control things you have no power over. Don't neglect your feelings, but don't let feelings dictate what is true. Let go of what destroys you. Ask for help when you need it. Do what is good for you, even when you don't feel like it. Give yourself a break. You are not less than because of what you feel. You are not your pain. You are what you make of it. Light has found a way through my pain every single time. So now I will choose to not fight the darkness. I choose to seek the light. The sadness will come, the disappointment will come, the pain will come, but that doesn't mean I have to let it destroy me. No matter how happy someone may seem, they have moments when they question if they can go on. No matter how confident someone may look, there are times when they feel unsure and insecure. And no matter how strong someone may appear, they have days when they feel like they're falling apart. Never think for a moment you're alone in your struggles. You're not a mess. You're human. Everyone has a story, but I won't let this define mine. Pain doesn't prevent purpose, it reveals it. So now in my darkest moments, I will choose to seek the truth, and I will choose to just be. Be still and know the truth. Be still and know. Be still. Just be. Me.
Christmas Eve, 2009. Today is Christmas Eve. We are in Pennsylvania. Kayla and I are opening our presents. February 6th, 2010. I like penance and reconciliation. I practice with a group of people in Sister Peter. February 21st, 2010. I went to a Justin Bieber concert. It was so fun. He was dancing and playing music with his guitar and singing. He was also saying something in Japanese. That means you're sexy. March 13th, 2010. I love Monster High. I have 6 Monster High dolls. Claudine Wolf, Frankie Stein, Laguna Blue, and Gulia Yelps. Most of my friends have them. April 25th, 2010. It was my 9th birthday, and I was celebrating at Spa Babies, a spa for kids. I loved my birthday. We had lots of people, like Taylor, Haley, and me, of course. 4th of July, 2010. I love fireworks. On 4th of July, we went to my grandma and grandpa's house. I was kind of nervous because I got into a bad fight with Grandpa, but everything was great. We had a barbecue and Daddy bought pastries. September 7th, 2010. The chocolate milk story. Mommy did not give Daryl chocolate milk so he would not get sick, but he was crying with terror.
Thanksgiving 2011. Thanksgiving for me was okay because half of it was bad and the other half was good. During the Thanksgiving parade, Dad had to fight with me. Then my earrings fell off and I couldn't find my gloves. I got so frustrated and told Mom, and then we had an argument. That was really embarrassing. June 23rd, 2012. Today was my dance recital. You couldn't even see me because my teacher Jahan moved me from the front to the back for no apparent reason. I think she favors people and she doesn't favor me because I'm not popular like all the rest of the girls. June 4th, 2013. Today, I asked Kayla if she wanted to sleep over because we always talk about having one, and she said yes. When she came over to my house, we played chalk outside and she taught me how to play basketball. The night was really stressful and sad for me. Kayla asked me questions about my family, and I didn't really know how to answer them. I wish my family was normal so I wouldn't have to hide everything.
January 4th, 2015. It's now the middle of 8th grade and I realized I have tons of problems. I spend a lot of time watching YouTube makeup videos. Is it bad that I wear a full face of makeup at 13? October 31st, 2015. Halloween was the absolute worst. When it was time to trick or treat, everyone went into their own friend groups and then there was me, walking house to house by myself. I never wanted to leave a party so quick. February 10th, 2016. I hate going to school. I go to sleep earlier than I normally do. I have no motivation or energy to learn. Maybe it's a side effect of depression. December 28th, 2016. Christmas was okay, but it didn't snow. It didn't even feel like Christmas at all. January 22nd, 2017. I feel like the whole world is against me. I don't enjoy life anymore. I don't enjoy interacting with people or making friends. No matter what I do, I can't be happy. I'm tired of just existing in people's lives. I feel trapped inside my room with my thoughts and anxiety. I'm such a failure. I can't do anything. I feel like dissolving into thin air. I'm just a burden to everyone and everything. It's killing me. It's eating me up inside. I'm tired of just existing. I can't do anything right. I'm not good enough for anyone, and I never will be.
April 20th, 2020.
I'm 16 years old, and I guess I'm outgoing but shy. I'd say that I'm good at artsy things like painting and drawing, but I also play instruments like bass. I think I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty crazy, not gonna lie. It's not like bad crazy, it's not like psychopath crazy. It's like, I'm crazy, but it's a fun kind of crazy. It's a good crazy you want around, like, in a friend, because you want somebody not like normal people. Am I like normal people? I don't think so. I'm horrible at math. Math is something special. Math is a bitch. I hate math because it's hard. Sometimes I can focus, most of the time I can't. Pay attention to the word focus. You see, I can't focus. I have ADHD. I didn't find this out till I was in like 7th grade. And when I first found out, everything from my childhood, kind of makes sense. Like the fact that my mom would hold me down at the dining table so I would do my homework from grade 1 to 5. I thought people would make fun of me, so I didn't tell anybody. I also found out that I had dyscalculia, which is like math dyslexia, and I had social anxiety. So it was kind of a shock to the system at first. I was really embarrassed about it because I saw it as a weakness like anybody else would. Because why would you want to share that if it means that you could be different than like anybody else your age, The day that I was diagnosed with ADHD, they were like, so you can like either take medicine or you can just decide to do therapy and stuff, right? And I was like, I don't feel like doing therapy. That's time. That is cash money. So I didn't do therapy, and I didn't start taking medicine until like this year. For art and thinking of new projects and ideas, I don't like taking my medicine because when I don't need to focus, stuff just comes to me. I can stare at a plain wall and get an idea, but when I need to work on it, though, I need to be focused. So if I don't take my medicine, I'll work on it, but then I'll walk around the classroom and look around and be bored of actually getting it done. As I started getting used to ADHD, I would like tell people more and more because people would be like, why are you leaving the room for this quiz? And I would be like, because I have ADHD, so that means I get more time than you. Ha. But then we got to high school and I was embarrassed all over again. I took my first test. I think it was for math, algebra uno. And I remember walking into the room and seeing how many kids there were in the same room as me for my period. I was like, I didn't know that so many kids have the same issues as me. Would it be easier to not have ADHD? Yeah, but it's a part of who I am, and, I wouldn't change that.
is sexy. When I see her dancing to jazz tunes under blue light in a wooden bar, her dark curls sway with her hip clicks and honey-colored drink. I think my depression is a movie star, but maybe no one let her read the script. She's quick to improvisation, played out with such motivation, you'd never guess she's pretending. I think my depression makes magic. I've never seen someone make sadness disappear the way she does. The drinking persistence or her magician's assistant erase the bad days in an instant. She saws her anxieties in half, and unable to cadaver them back, she breathes a nervous laugh. I think my depression feels nothing. At least she tells me so while she stumbles home sloppy, swaying. She's laying on my side of the bed when she drunkenly mumbles she wishes she was dead, but maybe it's all in my head, so I don't worry. I won't wake her. Tomorrow, I'll keep trying to save her. I think my depression is lonely. She never leaves my side, but she won't eat the food I make her, and I can't predict when she's gonna cry. I tell her she has to try. So on the bad days, we snip the sizing tags from her jeans and tape the self-harming scissors shut. On the bad days, we dance shoeless and tell each other we are enough. And on the good days, because we still have good days, she wonders why she ever tried to give up. But one good day is never enough. I think my depression is suicidal. I tell her if she won't love her, I will. Because even the shit pieces increase her uniqueness. I tell her she won't believe this, but she's the only good thing I've got. She's the only one who reminds me to feel something. I want to feel something. I want to feel as real as my depression feels to me. So please, I beg of her, don't leave. It's getting worse. She screams, but I'm quick to burst. I love you. I loved you first. I think I am my depression. And I think my depression is sexy. I think I am complex, I am loud, I am beautiful, I am strong. I think if I wasn't this good at being sad, I wouldn't have made it this long. I think my depression is my superpower. I think my depression allows me to feel. I think my depression must be a poet because a lot of people believe or think or know. And when you believe or think or know, you are a lot of other people. But my depression, she feels. I feel. And the moment I feel, I am nobody but myself.
I'm continuously moved by the talent, creativity, and spirit of these films, and I'm so excited to hear everyone's feedback in the comment section if you feel inclined to share. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Shadille Estepan. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the Communications and Outreach Manager at Born This Way Foundation. Our work aims to make kindness cool, further increasing the validation of the emotions of young people, eliminating the stigma that surrounds mental health. We celebrate the power of storytelling and its ability to transform lives, build awareness, inspire acts of kindness, and of course, invite conversations about mental health. I'm so excited to dive into our next talk with these amazing storytellers and advocates who dared to share their films and prompt us with their bravery by leaning into the topic of mental health through their films. I'd like to start by creating a space for all of us to check in with each other. So instead of formal introductions, can we please each share our names and a little bit about who you are in this moment? And that includes everyone watching from home. And we'll start here in the panel with Brittany.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Bautista. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am firstly a filmmaker student at Pratt Institute, but I would like to, define myself as a visual artist. I guess my main goal in life is to create awareness about certain social or political issues that aren't normally talked about, and kind of like normalize issues again that are kind of seen as taboo, especially mental illness. And as an Asian American woman, mental illness isn't a topic that is normally talked about within my culture. So I just want to like inspire other young women to like start these conversations and have them early, and just prioritize mental health, because it's actually a very important topic, especially at such a young age. So yeah, I'm gonna kick it off to Savannah.
Hi everyone, I'm Savannah Mears, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a filmmaker. And in this moment, I'm just so thankful to be here, and it's just been so cool to watch all of these stories play out, because it's different than just a regular film, right? Like they come from such deep levels of inspiration and experience. And in this moment, I'm just thankful to be alive and thankful to be here. And in the same way, I just love sharing stories that aren't otherwise told and aren't otherwise comfortable being told, especially on screen. So I would view myself as an advocate in storytelling, and I think that everyone watching and everyone here has the same ability to spread stories, no matter what outlet it might be, if it's filmmaking or not. So just super grateful, and I'm gonna pass it over to Kat.
Hey, I'm Kat Dolan. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And in this moment, I am just incredibly honored. I'm a performance poet and a filmmaker and a mental health advocate, and all those things combined have brought me to this point, and it's been a really long, wonderful, wonderful journey, and I am just extremely grateful to be with all of you, especially among so many wonderful, amazing female filmmakers. Honored to be a part of this list.
And it is an honor to be in each of your presence. I am so moved by each of your films, and I'd love to start with Savannah. Your film B left an overwhelming impact on me. I related so much to the subject, and I've also battled with intrusive thoughts telling me that I don't belong, or I'm unwanted, or that nobody understands me. But you beautifully transitioned into this feeling, and that light has found its way through my pain every single time. And it's such a beautiful reminder that despite these challenges that we may be facing, we are incredibly resilient. And I'd love to know, what are some things that you do to help find the light in challenging times?
Totally. Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think just throughout my own mental health journey, and with the one actor in the film, and Kwani, who's here somewhere, and I'm so thankful that he chose to just kind of express this story. We are close friends and had several conversations about our own mental health, and it kind of inspired me to bring this story to light, which started in like my own journals and things that I have thought and felt. And I think things that help me see the light through the end of a struggle is just bringing it to light. I think there's so much power can be taken hold of us when we keep things to ourselves and when we don't share our struggles. And I know that's so hard to do. And hopefully it's becoming easier as we break this stigma, but it shouldn't be something we're ashamed of to share that we're struggling. And for me, just sharing with friends and also taking time for myself, whether that I'm big about my faith. So whether that's just like personal prayer and meditation, or whether that's just taking time to step back, or if it's therapy, there's just so many. It's not a one size fits all to kind of navigate what mental health looks like and mental illness looks like. So for me, finding light was just choosing to take on the next day and not end it. And like life in everyone's life here is just so worth living that you have to believe there's light and that there's hope on the way, even if you can't feel it yet. So I think just having that concept of hope that greater is coming, whether you can see it yet or not, has been what's helped me see light through dark times.
What a beautiful description. Thank you so much. And that moment where I took that hopeful deep breath as I was watching your film was like truly at that 5:24 mark when the sheets landed. I took a deep breath, like a sigh of relief, and it really drove home that message of being still. I was breathing along with that breath that you gave in your film. I'm just so moved by it, and thank you so much, Savannah, for sharing that with us and the world. And Brittany, in your film, you also took us through an emotional sort of roller coaster. Only this one felt a little bit more like a time capsule to me. And I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into what drove you, or what inspired you, excuse me, to take that form, for your film to take that form, excuse me. And then also, what do you do to take care of yourself? And I think that it's so interesting the way that each version of the young girl grew in such a beautiful way, but also, of course, we experienced the challenges that she faced. And I just, every bit resonated with me. And so what inspired you, and also how do you support your mental health?
Yeah, thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate it. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but I'm like so honored to be a part of this panel with all of these like talented young women. But basically, I made this film during quarantine, and I was kind of looking for inspiration, narrative. I really wanted to create a narrative because I've made like documentaries in the past, and I really wanted to make a strong narrative. And I was digging through like my old journals, and I've been journaling and writing in diaries ever since I was kind of like 7 years old, and it's been my way of like venting. And I always like have a tendency to bottle my emotions, so like writing in journals is kind of my way to kind of take those emotions out. And I was just flipping through the pages, and I just like noticed like all these constant patterns of like self-doubt and like self-hatred, but I didn't recognize it was self-hatred. I just thought it was kind of like normal to like have these emotions, and then it would just get progressively worse like as I entered middle school and then throughout high school. And I just kind of thought that this would be a very personal film as an artist to make. It definitely was very ambitious, and it's kind of like I'm opening a lot to my audience. I risk a film that is that personal and open and vulnerable, and so I really wanted to take that leap and just be as open as I can with my art. And yeah, I just basically flipped through these pages and took like some excerpts from each journal. There were like 8 journals, and then I kind of like threaded a story together throughout all of them. And yeah, I just wanted to show that like mental health isn't like an easy like slope. It doesn't go like, it's not like you're sad and then you're happy. It's kind of just like ups and downs, and like there are times where you feel really confident, and there's times where you feel like really down, and like, but you don't really recognize that until you look at the bigger picture. So yeah, that was kind of just like what I was trying to depict.
I've always wanted to be the girl that journals. And I have written about my experiences in the past, but never in that consistent way. What did it feel like to dive into these journals? I'm curious, like how it felt to sit in your room and flip through these pages and like sort of listen to the younger you.
It was definitely kind of just it hurt a little bit because when I was looking through these journals, I stopped writing journals kind of like in high school, and then when I went into college, I just forgot about it. And at that point, I was more open with my mental health to my friends. So instead of journaling, I would talk to my friends, which I think is kind of good. But I I didn't realize like how much like self-hatred I had for myself, and just how bad my mental health was, but I just didn't recognize it. And I didn't like any glimmer of hope. Just felt really bad for myself in those times. And I wish, like, I don't know, I wish I could go back in time and tell myself, like, things are going to be okay. Like, it's going to be better. You're not always going to feel this way. I'm sorry?
Thank you. Thank you so much. There are just voices in our heads. So for anyone who's listening, there can be some pauses, and that's the beauty of live conversations. Another beauty of live conversations is that you can share your comments with us. We would love to hear what you're thinking, your response, and your questions. We'll have a Q&A portion, and we'd love, love, love to hear your thoughts. And on that note, I'd love to transition to this film festival's winner, Kat. First and foremost, congratulations. I was so moved by your film, Nobody But Myself. You truly are through and through, like the rest of our filmmakers, an incredible poet, storyteller, and mental health advocate in this space. You move me and you move each of us to truly dive a little bit deeper into these emotions and lean into uncomfortable conversations with ourselves, about ourselves, and really inspire us. And on the note of advocacy, I did some Googling and learned that you are also the founder of Out of Your Mind, a nonprofit dedicated to fostering creative spaces that eradicate. I love the word eradicate as it pertains to mental health stigma. And so you work to eradicate social isolation and reframe mental illness as a mental health opportunity. Can you tell us a little bit about your organization and how what inspired you to create your organization and this film?
Yeah, Shadille, that's a great question, and thank you so much for those accolades. I'm so glad that the film is doing its job that I created it to do, and moving people from wherever they are. Yeah, the film, what inspired me to create the film was the poem itself. It took me a really long time to write that poem. I had the first line, I think my depression is sexy, in my head for about 4 years before I did anything with it. And I just one day finished the poem, and immediately it played out in my head so clearly. It was almost happening a lot, but just parallel to each other. And so I created the film in conjunction with the launch of the nonprofit Out of Your Mind. And so at the launch party, we were able to show the film and really just make something repeatable. Something I wanted everybody to have something that they could truly just pull out of their pocket and watch, to help them remember that you are the author of your own story, and it is possible to frame that story in whatever frame you find or find suitable. Truly, it is really up to you. And I think through the poem, I was able to say to my depression, I think you're sexy. Instead of, how can we fix you? What do we need to do to make you better, or for people to like you, or for you to feel loved? It was less about me and my depression becoming something, and more about me accepting my depression for who she is and just meeting her where she's at. And once I kind of took a step back and opened that door, I just got a chance to better understand myself and really love myself in the end. You know, I think everybody starts out faking it until you make it, but eventually, I mean, you're going to get there. I've been trying to sing over COVID. I've been trying to teach myself how to sing. I'm not going to get worse. I'm just going to get better, you know, even if it's not so good in the beginning. And that's what Out of Your Mind is about. It's about bringing people together to help them find a new creative outlet. We really pull upon the different artists in our hometown of Boone, North Carolina, and we put on events. And we're just getting ready to start events again in May for Mental Health Awareness Month. Of course, they'll be outside and socially distanced with masks and all of that, but it is just a chance to do something fun. It's not group therapy or events. It's simply a chance to get out of your mind and figure out what your interests are and maybe meet other people who are interested in tapping into their emotional intelligence.
Wow, that is incredibly powerful. I see your fellow panelists and filmmakers just nodding, and I'm sure that those who are watching right now are also nodding. Of everything that you said, the thing that's really sticking is that we are the authors of our story. We are the authors of our story. Thank you for that reminder, Kat. And before we jump into audience Q&A, I want to share that Born This Way Foundation teamed up with our friends at Find Your Anchor. I shared this at the end of the previous conversation. I started to unfold or to, excuse me, share about this tool. It's pleasestay.us, and it's an interactive and easily accessible mental health resource. Another component of addressing and leaning into these very difficult conversations and recognizing that we are the authors of our stories is to find the support that we need and to remind ourselves that we matter and that we deserve to be here and to take up this space. And so that's what this tool is about. On the site, pleasestay.us, you'll find links to mental health resources, self-care tips, reminders of how special you are, and ideas for anchors. These different elements in our lives, people or things that keep us tethered to this world. And I would love to hear what your anchors are. And we can start with Brittany.
Sorry, so you asked what my anchors are. Can you kind of just elaborate on that a little bit? Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Anchors are the people and the things that are keeping us tethered to this world right now, despite the challenges that we may be facing because of this pandemic or other global crises. What are the things that you're holding on to? So for me, it's my younger sister. For some of our previous panelists, it's their family members or a hobby that they love to do. And I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, so I guess I have kind of two anchors, I guess. One of my anchors is my grandma. My grandma is literally like my number one fan. She loves me so unconditionally, no matter how many flaws I have, no matter how many failures I have. She's just always like there for me. And I hope that when I'm older, I can be as supportive and as loving as her and just give all my love to this world. And she's just such a bright, positive light in such a dark time. And it's just so inspiring. And I guess my creative outlet is obviously filmmaking. I did just produce like 2 more films within the past during quarantine, and that just all the frustration of COVID and just like the exhaustion and just all of these, I don't know, constricting thoughts were kind of like expressed in those films that I made, and it really was a good outlet to just like let all these feelings like pour out and just kind of express them to the world. So yeah.
My anchors, I would say, I kind of referenced it in like the first question that I answered, but I would say, firstly, would just be like tied back to my faith. Like I feel like I have more of a purpose, and we all have such a calling and purpose on this world, whether we know it yet, what it is exactly or not. And I just love preaching that to the ends of the earth to people, like, your life is so worth living. Like, whether or not you feel that way yet or not, you have something to offer. Whether, even if you feel like you don't have this crazy talent yet, I promise you, you do. And if you ask the people around you, they would probably be able to speak over that into your life. And I think for me, it's just kind of trying to preach that back at myself, which can be hard, but is like, no, like, obviously, like, I'm surrounded by great storytellers just here on this panel, and it's like I really enjoy that as well. And I truly believe I have more stories to share, whether it's more of my own or of people around me that maybe don't have the passion to share it themselves. So that's kind of what keeps me going, and is an anchor of just humility of like, wow, like, we can create at least the resources to be able to share these stories, whether it's through filmmaking or whether it's through writing or whether it's through such an awesome nonprofit that Kat has created. And I just think we all have something to offer to the world. And so my anchor would just be the people around me that even remind me of that. And also from within myself, just trying to have the confidence, or just at least just, I don't know, the being that is of, no, like, there's more to life than just, what my depression is or what my anxiety is. Like, I can use that and kind of make it into something greater than just myself. So those would be my anchors.
My anchors, especially during COVID, have really been my family and my neighbors, but especially my partner, Nick. We met during COVID, and he has been just an incredible support to me. And it's been a really fun, interesting experience, not being able to go anywhere and just getting a lot of one-on-one time to get to know somebody. And he also is really supportive of my other outlet that I picked up during COVID, which is crocheting and knitting. And I'm really grateful for that, because there is just a lot of yarn and yarn bits everywhere all over the house. But I have really, really enjoyed picking up exploring new hobbies. To be honest, I haven't written that much during COVID. I've been crafting things because I think I'm craving connection with other people so much that I've been making headbands and hats. I did all throughout the winter, and we're handing them out and giving them as gifts to people to help warm their thoughts, and just in hopes that they would think of me when they were wearing the hat or the headband. And that's been an anchor for me, just the thought of the connections and the relationships that I've had, and all the connections and relationships I'm certain to make once we were able to hang out again, and especially start Out of Your Mind events.
Thank you all so much for sharing your anchors and inviting us to learn a little bit more about you by sharing your anchors. I think it really creates a safe space where we can open up and honestly, confidently and passionately talk about the things that we love and that lead us to be the creators that we are. I hope that everyone in the comment section is also sharing your anchors and just talking with one another and extending this community that we're creating in this panel of amazing women and filmmakers. And I did want to give the audience a chance to ask everyone some questions. And there's going to be a voice in my head any second that's going to tell me what the Q&A question is. Perfect. Thank you so much. So the first question is for Brittany. How did creating What Did You Do Today impact your own mental health? And we sort of touched on this, just what was it like to read through your old journals? So I'd like to rephrase that last part of the question. Would you ever go back to journaling? How did this feel, and does it bring you back to this hobby or this form of this outlet that you had as a child?
Yeah, so going off of the first question, kind of like the process of making this film was definitely difficult. One, because I was during the pandemic and I was in front of a camera, which I normally don't do. One, because I still am insecure, but like I was much more insecure back then, and to put myself in front of a camera and knowing that this was going to be publicized and hopefully sent off to film festivals was definitely scary. And then on top of that, I'm expressing my raw and unscripted emotions like to an audience, and I think that was definitely terrifying. But I guess making this film, I was kind of like analyzing my mental health and like reevaluating myself. I never really took the time to look back at my younger self and like see the progress of my mental health and like my mental health journey, and it was really interesting to see that. It was definitely it was just be where I was, and but it was very it felt really good to see like how far I've come, and to kind of the making of this film, like the ending kind of it gave me closure a little bit, and reminded me like mental health isn't like an easy journey. It's like you have a lot of ups and downs, and it's not an easy fix. Like I'm still on my way to becoming more mentally stable. I'm not fully where I need to be, but that's okay. Like no one's always happy like 100% of the time. And then again, looking at these journals, and it was it brought a lot of like bad memories, and just it kind of made me realize that I need to work on myself. I need to put my needs in front of other people. Like it's really important to have these conversations about mental health. So yeah.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. And the next question is for Kat. So this is very similar to the question that I was hoping to ask as well, and so I'm so excited that someone asked it. So through most of your poem, you speak about your depression like it's another person, and towards the end of your poem, you connect it to yourself. You say, "I think I am my depression." Why did you include this in your poem, and how does it reflect a realization in your life?
Well, it's so much easier to take care of a friend that's sick than it is to take care of yourself when you're sick. And that's kind of the idea that I started with when I was drawing from the emotional place to write this poem. And so by um, by first personifying my depression as she, I was able to appreciate all the good things about her and treat her as a friend, somebody I wanted to lift up and give compliments to, and just let them know that I love them. I don't know what would happen if I didn't have her. And then when I switched to I think I am my depression, I'm talking about this person, I'm talking about how great she is, and then to realize that that person is myself, it was just an easier transition for me in my mind to start my positivity outside myself, and then slowly get more comfortable with the fact that I am somebody who deserves to feel love. And I can be the person to provide that love for myself. I've spent so much time by myself. I've traveled extensively for years by myself, and it hasn't always been easy. Most of the time, it's very difficult. And the greatest part about all those memories and all those adventures and travels, similar to Brittany's journals, is that the one common denominator is me. And I'm always there, and I've always been there. And if I can just look at that loyalty, just loyalty alone as a positive thing, then that's a quality that I have, that I can say, you know what, I'm not all bad. Even when I feel my worst, it's not going to always be like this, because I know this person. I know she's going to get back up. I've seen her do it 1,000 times. And it was a really cathartic experience to write the poem, and even more so to perform it. Before COVID, I was performing at open mics, certainly all over Western North Carolina. And I'm excited to do that again, because there's nothing like a live performance, and nothing like catching someone off guard at an open mic when they've just been listening to acoustic guitar for a couple hours. It's really, I always make wonderful friends whenever I perform this poem and whenever I show my film, just like tonight.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm feeling so inspired by all of you, and to think that perhaps someone who joined this conversation and this film festival didn't exactly know what these films were about, but was met with that same sort of challenge that you posed in each of your films, and that is to be vulnerable and to be open and to connect with the messages that you're portraying, is incredibly powerful. And a lot of times in these moments, folks also need to be met with resources. And I just want to ensure that everyone knows that they can go to bornthisway.foundation if they need additional resources to support their mental health, or if you'd like some self-care tips curated by some expert mental health experts. And so I'd like to dive into our last couple of questions. I'm getting them through my emails. I'm so excited. The last question is for everyone, and we'll start with Savannah. What inspired you to create a film on this topic? It isn't easy. I think we've talked about the personal challenges that we experience, and I'd love to sort of round that question out by saying, how did you overcome some of the challenges that you faced while filming? And we can start with Savannah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the inspiration just came from my own experience, and I'm sure both of you guys also feel this way. Is like, I'm so glad that it went so beyond myself. Like I was telling Kwani, who I made the film with, this has been a form of therapy for me. Like, I had never really addressed my own struggles with mental health, and it was kind of scary to be so vulnerable and like promote it and tell everyone about it. And it's like, oh, I'm working on a short film, and people are like, what's it about? And I'm like, well, depression. Like, yeah, I have it. Like, it's not that easy to kind of talk about, but the ending rounds it out in some hope. That was my heart behind it, at least. But I'm just so glad. And we had actually made it right before COVID, and just with everything that went on last year, and just the rise of awareness of social injustice, and just watching it through the lens of, someone that wasn't me was so great. Like, watching it through someone that feels depressed, but then watching it through the lens of someone that is oppressed, and communities that feel like they don't have hope, and they don't have anything to look forward to because of the systems in place. So it was a struggle during it to make it, more so on my end and processing my own feelings. And then as it just continued to reach more people, and people with different experiences, people that don't look like me, and people that do, it turned into something much greater than I could have ever hoped for. And I'm just so glad, because that was the intention all along, is to make people feel seen and heard. And again, it just brings me back to, wow, how much power is there in your story? And when you're willing to share it, you'd be surprised at how many people it could affect and how many people could relate. So although it was kind of hard during it, because I didn't want to process my own emotions, it was so worth it. And I'm just so glad that people continue to see inspiration in it, because that's all I ever wanted and hoped for.
Yeah, I kind of like what Savannah said about how making this film was like a form of therapy. I definitely see that with my own film. I guess the inspiration kind of came from a lot of people like advise me that as artists, you have to be vulnerable and you have to be personal in order for people to connect with your work. And I never really did that. I kind of made like films that had like silly little stories, but they weren't like really about me. They were about like other people's stories. And I know that deep down I wanted to tell stories about myself, but I didn't necessarily know how. And I knew that my mental health was a big chunk of my life, and it at some point it did overtake my entire life. So yeah, it was definitely a step for me, like personally, to be more vulnerable and personal with work. And yeah, and just after making the film, it definitely like it gave me like kind of like I was able to visualize like my journey of mental health and kind of see where I'm at now. And I kind of created this film like looking at this, a lot of my friends that watched this, they were like, oh my gosh, yeah, I can relate to looking at myself in the mirror and just like absolutely hating and picking at things on my skin. So like I made it so that a lot of other young women and everybody can kind of relate to it and kind of make it like this universal thing. And it's not just about me, but it's about how everybody struggles with this, but not everybody talks about this. And I feel like our generation is getting better at having these conversations. And so I hope that with this film can further expand those conversations, so we just talk about mental health. It's just another thing and it isn't seen as taboo.
Kat, we're unable to hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. So sorry about that. Um, I I wanted to make this film. This is the first film I have ever made, and I'm really proud of that. And I decided to do this topic of mental health because it's my truth. I have been working with my mental opportunities for so long, trying to understand them and make them work for me as opposed to work against me, that I feel like my honesty is me my best attempt at figuring it out and finding a way to be happy. And so this film for me was really, gosh, it was really just a film about all my favorite things. Mental health, poetry. I got to film it in Western North Carolina. A lot of it was filmed on the road that I live on, in my neighborhood, in my backyard, where I play, where I get out of my mind, where I explore. And I felt that these things bring me so much joy. I want to share them in a way that I see them all the time. And so it's been really awesome. I have a lot of my neighbors were in the film, and they're really excited about all these film festivals we've been in. And so I think choosing the topic of mental health for me has brought me just so much joy, because it has, like everybody else has said, it's been incredible. It was incredibly therapeutic and continues to be therapeutic, because it's such a wonderful reminder of who I am.
Thank you all so much for sharing and inviting us to learn more about your films, your minds, and as we work to get out of our minds this weekend, and sort of find ways to practice self-care, and to lean into these conversations following this panel and these amazing films. I just want to remind everyone that it's okay to not be okay. And that I and we on this panel know that things may feel difficult right now, but as they do for me, but you matter. You are so incredibly loved, and we need you to please stay and to find the resources that exist in your communities. And with that, I love to conclude and to thank everyone who's joined this conversation. Of course, thank you to every one of the filmmakers, those who joined us on in these panels, but also everyone who submitted their films. The power of storytelling continues in each of your pages, in each of your YouTube channels, in all of your Medium accounts, and in every share button that we are able to click. And so I invite everyone who's watching to please reshare these films, get more folks talking about these topics, connect to the resources. And I want to send a special thank you on behalf of Community Access to the Laurie M. Tisch Illumination Fund and the Isadora Foundation. And on that note, I wish everyone a lovely and safe weekend. And thank you again for joining us.